This is TG. I'm gonna show you how to create plugins for Sparkler. Sparkler is a web crawler that I've been working from about a year, and it has been, very active recently. Some of you have asked me about so many questions about plugins and how to create plugins, especially. This video is about the demo. I'm gonna do it, and you're gonna watch how to do it. Um, okay, so we need a purpose for a plugin. So for that, what I have decided is let's go to the issues page of Sparkler. So one of our collaborator has asked we need a plugin to well, we need some mechanism to enforce the crawl into a specific domain. So of course there are many ways to do it. We can add this this logic to our core application, or we can add it to a plugin. So today I'm going to show you how to restrict a crawl just using a plugin. Okay, and I promise this is going to be real quick. So what do we have? I loaded my project to ID. So in the left you can see there are a bunch of sub modules. Okay, so there are a bunch of sub modules. So the important thing is we have an API which provides the interfaces, and the main thing we want from here is there is an interface called URL filter. So this one gives us two URLs, the parent URL and the child URL, the outgoing URL. The current web page will be parent, the links discovered in that page will be the child URL. So using this we're going to solve this issue, the issue number 140. Okay, and how we do it. So we know the interface, it's already there, URL filter. In case you are developing some plugin and the interface is not defined yet, then this is the place. You go to the Sparkler API /Java and define your interface here. Okay. Then we have another submodule called Sparkler plugins, which is basically a POM file, POM, which links all the plugin. So here we have one funny plugin called template plugin. So what I did is I created prepared a plugin structure and made it ready so that you can just copy paste and start working with it. So which is exactly what I'm gonna do now. I just copy template plugin and paste it, then call it as what should we name it? Okay, URL filter same host. All right. Okay. Now we have URL filter same host. Ignore this for now. URL filter same host, which has a POM file. So here there is a template plugin. Because I copied the names are same, I'm going to replace it. So URL filter, I'm going to call it as URL filter same host. All right, that's our artifact ID and the plugin. Okay, so the key thing you need to observe is this POM file is really simple, boy. So you can see that there's so much magic going on here. The magic is done by the parent form, which is Sparkler plugin. If you go here, you can understand how plugins are configured. Okay, so you can see that there are a bunch of there's an assembly plugin which takes a bunch of properties and update into manifest entries, and same goes with the jar plugin, which are all pre-configured. All we have to do right now is go to our plugin form file and double check if these are properly defined. Okay, so here there is this thing, we have to update it later. Okay, we'll come back here. Let's call it as to do. So we'll come back there. The rest everything I'm gonna leave it, keep it in sync with Maven artifact ID, version ID, and group ID, etc., etc. All right, so I just copied it. However, it's not linked to the build system. How do I do it? If we go to the Sparkler plugins, there will be modules section. You can see within this section now we're going to list one more plugin called URL filter same host. Okay, same host. Alright, so now that we synced it, now my IDE recognized it as main project, and then you here we go to the source file. We see that there's a plugin and activator. Let's work with the plugin first. Okay, so there is my plugin. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call this as um, sure, I'm going to call this as say URL filter same host. Alright, I'm going to then rename this file because I copied it. Then I say it implements URL filter. There's one from Nudge and another one from Sparkler. Make sure your interfaces are from Sparkler because this is a Sparkler plugin, not a Nudge plugin. Alright, so then our IDE says you have to implement a method that's filter. Okay, I'm going to remove this dummy method. So let's see, there is a filter. So basically I have to return true and false. It probably is a confusing. Let's go to the documentation again. I have to return true if the URLs are to be passed to the filter. False if we need to drop it. So basically this requirement says crawl should be within the domain or within the host for now. So there's a bit difference between domain and host. We'll not solve it right now. We'll not worry about it right now. Let's just call specific host. Okay, to make it simple, to make my demo simple. Um, so we have two URLs, the parent URL and the child URL. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to call new URL, create an URL object of the child, and then going to get host, and then that's one thing. So it should be equals to again new URL of parent dot get host. Both of these should be equals. Okay, it's saying malformed URL exception. What we do is surround with try catch block. So if they are equal, means they are on the same host, then we're going to crawl. All right. So if there's usually malformed URL exception shouldn't happen because this is written in Java and we are ensuring that all these are proper URLs. I'm going to throw runtime exception instead of simply masking it. All right. Okay. Now that we'll see URL filter plugin to restrict to the same host. Okay, so now we'll see about the activator. This activator is just a supporting class required by framework. One use case would be, let's say you want to know when the plugin is loaded or activated. So this provides some extra methods such as let me go here and see what. So it has start and stop in case you need those events. So right now we don't need it, so we don't worry about it. Now we take this and we go to the POM file. This is very important. Okay, the plugin dot, we have to put the activator here. All right, so yes, that's linked. So what do we have? We have a plugin, we have an activator. Oh, we also need to write a test case, right? Writing test cases is always a good practice. So what we do is we'll tell IDE to create a JUnit4 test case for me. Great. No, not ready to add it to Git yet. So then we need an instance of our plugin. So we provided a test utils class and we say new instance called URL filter same host dot class, and the plugin ID is URL filter same host. Alright, so we'll get an instance called plugin. Now we'll make a test. String URLs. Let me add a bunch of URLs. Okay, first one is http URL host1.com/a, then host1/b, then host2/, okay, then I say assert true when the plugin is called to filter with the URLs, the first one and the second one, they are in the same host, right? Then the second one should be assert false, the first one and the third one. So host 1 and host 2 are different hosts, correct? So let's run it. Oops, sorry. I should be telling run filter. Ooh. Interesting. What happened? Okay, I have to rename the file. Great. Now, can you run this? Can you run this for us? Yes, our ID says tests are passed. Now, I'm sorry, there is some weird character inserted. Great. Now we go and delete our dummy test case. Right. Now we verify that it is linked. Then we verify that the activator is enabled. Then that's it. Now we're ready to build it. Okay. Here we go. Building is simple. Maven clean package. I'm going to skip test because tests are going to take a long time, and I don't want to waste our video recording time. This will take a minute or two, maybe a minute. It's building everything. Okay, it's building the API, it's building the plugins, it's building the core application. The core application requires a bunch of libraries like Spark, Hadoop, Notch. So it's doing lots of things while we're watching. Okay. Meanwhile, let me show you something. We have our solar dashboard here. Solar. Okay, we see that there's nothing in the solar. We have our banana dashboard. I'm going to enable auto refresh every 5 seconds. Okay, so there is nothing in our banana dashboard, which we have not called yet. I am keeping them running. Great, the build is success. So what we expect to see is there will be a directory called build. So we go inside build, and then there will be another subdirectory called plugins. Within that, we see that the new plugin we added is here, and we did not add any dependencies, so it should be really small. Yeah, it's like, is it even 2K? 2 kilobytes? Yeah, it's just 2 kilobytes, just 1 or 2 classes we added. Alright, so let's get this going. So what I'm gonna do is, now we have to test the plugin, the restrictor file. So I'm going to pick Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow has bunch of URLs to outgoing sites. Like for example, ask Ubuntu, blah blah blah. So, okay, so I copy this, two jobs. So I'm gonna run two jobs. The first job will not have the plugin enabled. So the current state of the Sparkle project, this is not focused. It's gonna fetch URLs on any domain it's gonna find. Then the second job will uh, we will enable the plugin in the second job, and then we will see whether it will restrict to a specific domain or not. Okay, so here's how we do it. Okay, so we go to our dashboard and then see there's nothing, and let's start a job. So uh, here's the thing. So if the build is succeeded, then we can see, we go to the build and then we see plugins. So we have all the plugins here. Then we do bin slash sparkler.sh. Then every job is a two-step process. The first one is a inject. While inject, we pick a job ID. Let's say J first. So let's pick a feed URL. It's equal to, let's say, stackoverflow.com. Stack Overflow has this links to all the other hosts. For example, here's one from askubuntu.com. So what happens here with the default mode, it's going to crawl, it's going to follow all the outlinks. Okay, so we will test it. So let's say we crawl it, we tell it to crawl, then we look for the dashboard. So we just created J first. So we have only one, which was our feed URL. The job is running. I had enabled debugs, so the logger debug was enabled. That's why we see a lot of. Let me disable that. Let's make it to info. Okay, so the first job ran, and we see that we found links from stackoverflow.com, Stack Exchange, Sci-Fi, Travel, Academia, Ask Ubuntu. So it is going to crawl all this. Okay, it is not restricted. Now what we do is we are going to enable our plugin. What we do is we comment this. Alright, and then instead of regex filter, we'll use same host. Okay, now we're going to repeat the same process. Instead of first, we say I need to give a different job ID. Let's say second. Okay, so this second job, we run it with the second plugin enabled. Okay, now I injected. I'm going to use the same job ID. I mean the J second, and then I am going to let it crawl. Before that, let's watch the dashboard. Now I have second, there's only one, and then the status is unfetched. Let's run it. While it is running, we can see that one plugin is active. This time the active plugin is URL filter same host, and it is injecting. Okay, the job completed. Now here we see all the URLs discovered are from stackoverflow.com. So the first job, if you see, all the URLs were from, there were close to 400 from stackoverflow.com, but there were so many other hosts too. Now in the second one, if you see, all the URLs are from stackoverflow.com. So yeah, that's how we do plugin field, and we tested it. Um, Now I'm going to tell you some common pitfalls with plugins. The first one is, okay, your plugins, if you add a plugin, it has to be enabled in Sparkler plugins project. Okay, otherwise Maven doesn't build. If you don't list your plugin here, it won't build it. Then the next one is make sure the properties are properly set. Especially we are interested in plugin.id, version, provider, and class. The first three, we have configured to use the default from Maven. However, the plugin.class is the one you have to pay extra attention. Okay, so the activator, make sure you add a constructor that takes plugin wrapper, otherwise, it complains. The next thing you need to watch for is go to the plugin class itself. Make sure you implement the right interface, otherwise, our Sparkler will not know where to attach this plugin to. Then here's one key thing. There is this annotation added. It's called at extension annotation. So make sure you don't miss this. And then the next thing is in your configuration, say Sparkler default, make sure you add the correct ID. This ID usually reflects the artifact ID. Okay, and you can double check that your plugin is properly building by going to plugins and then see that it has a plugin with that name iPhone version. Okay, so that's it. I hope uh, I showed you some simple way to create plugins for Sparkler.